Alright guys, good morning. Let's do a quick easy video. Now if you've been following me for a long time, you know that I'm not a big fan of these trashy aluminum bare minimum ladders that RV manufacturers use, because all they do is cause leaks on the roof, cause damage on the rear walls, stick out pretty far, and usually are the first things that get hit and cause even more damage. And because of the nature of their construction, are kind of scary and dangerous to use anyways, even though they're supposed to support 300 pounds. So because this sticks out, we ripped out of the roof right there, causing a place for water to leak. And so the bare minimum today, we're gonna show you how to fix a ladder fairly easily and fairly inexpensively. But to do that successfully, we will have to take this ladder off, because we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the anatomy of a ladder. And I'm gonna try to convince you how wildly inappropriate these things pretty much are. That screw right there and that screw right there literally are going through plastic into this tread right there. All your weight every time you step on one of these is held up by nothing more than a couple of well-placed screws through thin wall aluminum. And this is a plastic end cap that's being used as a spacer, and it's very common for these things to crack too. Now, even though this push-on nut is broken off up here, it's not uncommon for these things to come loose almost everywhere. And to fix them, you have to take the base of them off to tighten them back up again. But once we get this off, I think you guys might agree with me, it's wildly outrageous that we trust any of our lives on these ladders. I also think it's kind of interesting and kind of telling that RV manufacturers don't put these ladders on their absolute top of the line, high line motorhomes, but also they don't put them on their bare bones, stripped down versions of travel trailers. I, for one, wish more RVs were more like this Lance with no ladder on the back. Those rear ladders are so problematic because they do cause damage, water leaks, and they are unsafe. Especially these monstrosities right here. And even though I've seen my fair share of these get ripped off in very narrow openings, this isn't the problem right here on this design. The real problem is on the roof up here. This screw that's going through this tread right here means that water can get down into this pipe down here, go straight into the roof. That's rotted out a number of roofs over the last few decades. So if your toy hauler has a handle on the roof like this, it may not be a bad idea to take a look to see if water has come in on the side and made its way down in here. And I'm definitely not the only RV shop to notice that. And you know, these ladders are ridiculously expensive for what they are. Just a small little ladder, like the one we're working on right there, is probably about $300, and you have to ship it. Please don't get me started on the universal fit ladders, because as an installer, I never feel right about sending anybody up those ladders. They're not put together well because they are universal. You're much better off just getting a collapsible telescoping ladder like this one I always use. I know it seems like a cartoon accident just waiting to happen, but for all their flex, they're still built a lot better and more substantial than those little thin wall aluminum ones. And these telescoping ones are half the price, the ones the factories install, and they're a heck of a lot more versatile because you can use this anywhere on the side of your RV or at your house or anywhere else you want to use it, because it's not mounted physically to your RV. And it's kind of insulting because the thing about it is stronger and more durable ladders are available, and they're really about the same amount of money. I mean, this is very substantial feeling. That's a pretty nice looking roof here too. And even though ladders may not be the most interesting subject, over the years when I have done inspections, I do try to point out whether or not a ladder is a higher quality ladder. I know Arctic Fox has one of the best looking ladder that's installed by the manufacturer, but ultimately I'd still just rather have a high quality telescoping ladder like this. Let's go ahead and take this off. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is start up here on the roof. And I probably should seal up right there. And just so I don't have to struggle with it, I'm gonna get some of this moisture off the roof. So all I have to do is find the screws. It looks to me like they used my Nemesis on a roof, a hex-headed screw. Kind of looks like 5/16. Yep, 5/16. The good news is it's not all rusty, so probably wasn't water in there. And then this is our Nemesis in the whole build right here. It's called a Star Washer, and it's broken. Those little tiny tabs right there are all that's supporting the weight of a human body. And of course, we can't fix it without taking the entire ladder off, especially down there. Now, because this is a gel coat fiberglass roof, I can use an oscillating tool with a dull blade on it. To get a lot of the sealant out of the way, a sharp blade will still cut its way underneath the fiberglass, so we don't want to cut the fiberglass. Now, luckily for me, somebody resealed this roof and used the wrong stuff, so it wasn't too much work to get this off. Tiffin uses a self-leveling silicone, so you will want to use the right sealant when it comes time to seal this back up again. Right, it looks like it. Got an extra hole right there too. Look at that, dirt was getting underneath. Luckily, I don't see signs of water damage on any of the screws, so that's good. But unluckily, these ladder bolts that go into those star washers do tend to rust out, which can be problematic when you come time to repair these ladders. Now, obviously, the standoffs right here, where you can get access to the screw head, you can just use a screwdriver to tighten up. But often, like I said, these are all rusted out, so you can't actually tighten it up. See, this one's springing back. We got an issue with this one. Might have to fix that one. And let's see how this one goes. All right, so looks like we might have to fix this one too. All right, so the next step is we have to take it off the sidewall. I think those are 1/4-inch screws. Huh. I wonder how many of those we're gonna find. All right, 300 pounds. And these have a little plastic spacer right there. Don't lose that. And 300 pounds this is rated for. Cool. All right, we have 3 broken screws. So I have to change out all the screws now. Okay, and you can see we had a problem down there. All right, so if you're lucky like me, or most RV shops, you've done enough RV repairs and enough RV roof jobs to have saved a couple of standoffs, which still have good star washers inside them. If not, you can just order the star washer by themselves. I think they're like $10 a piece, which is still pretty outrageous when you think about it. Also, it's very important that we understand the manufacturer did put structure in the rear cap of this, or the rear wall of a trailer. While I might question whether that ladder can hold 300 pounds, if there's no structure it's going into, it doesn't really matter what the ladder can hold if the wall itself can't. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is flip the ladder over, because this is why we had to take the ladder off. We have to get access to the screw, which is on the other side, right there. I'm going to be repositioning this because I aren't going to use the same screw holes as before, but now I get to tighten these back up again. You don't want to use Loctite because these star washers, you want to be able to tighten up again. As you should be able to see, it's just a friction fit in there anyways. And if you were to glue that in, it's going to make fixing that very difficult down the road. So the first thing I'm going to do is just cut off all this foam to get access to all the screw heads down below. And while a lot of people might be concerned that this did get kinked, we didn't puncture it. It's just got a little bit of a dent in it. So the owner doesn't want to pay the extra cost for a new ladder, as you can imagine. All right, with all that foam cut off, you can see this was quite wobbly. That one was loose. Oh, I think we tightened that one up. This one's very loose. That one's very loose. All we're gonna do is make sure that all these will tighten up securely. That means the star washer and the bolt is good. I'm gonna go ahead and take this one back off again though. It's gonna make cleaning this a lot easier. With a wire brush, clean it all the way. So wasn't that so much easier not on the ladder, just like that. And with both of them off, I can get the old sealant off the handle too. And then while I'm here, I can inspect and see that that star washer is in good shape. So we should be good there too. So now we can put this one back on again. It's just going to be using that screw. I'll get it started by hand because we don't want to cross strip it. All right, I'm missing that one. Tight, 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 tight. We just have to rebuild this one. Now, if you just ordered replacement star washers, you can skip the next step, because my next step is I have to extract this star washer. Now, this is designed to only go through the tubing one direction. It'll push down, but it won't pull out. All right, so it's a one-way washer on there. So what we need to do, because we have to push it through, is make sure you don't have to push it through so far, because if it gets twisted, those little tabs tend to break. So just use a tubing cutter, because we have to push it through. We don't want to deform the size of the tube, because it'll be difficult to get out. Remind me to get a better tubing cutter. Took a little bit of effort, but there we go. All right, we're just going to use the installation tool that comes with it, which is the bolt. All right, I just use a socket to catch it, to press it against. So you can see it's just a one-way washer like there. So it goes in one direction, it won't go out the other way. These are spring steel, and they will rust out. Our other standoff right there, remember one side was fine, the other side was ripped out. So we can compare the two right there. This one has no tabs left. All we have to do is make sure we're on the right side. We don't want to go on this side. We don't want to double it up. And we don't want to damage the threads. You do need to make sure you get it in far enough, because this still has to go down inside, so you don't want it to be hitting. So we will have to put it down a little bit further. Once you do get it started, you can just go ahead and switch over to a socket or any other press to help push it down a little bit better. But you don't want to go too far. All right. Look at that. We're good. So just go ahead and reassemble it and tighten it up. Of course, you could use a vise to do this, like you're doing U-joints on a drive shaft, and just press it in. But my vise is not big enough that I'm borrowing over here at the shop here. All right. That's nice and tight now. All right, just gonna put that back on there. Feed this back through. Cool. Now what I have to do is repeat the process up here. Obviously, it'll be much harder to put it in a vise right there, so the hammer method will be the preferable method. I don't have a lot of pressure on the vise on the tube right there, because this screw is not nearly as long, but it doesn't need to anyways, because it only goes down that direction. Unfortunately, for those that were paying attention and know my channel just a little bit, this rear cap seam is pretty bad. So I am going to have to get the roof repair tape that is starting to peel up, and did something weird on this back cap area and reseal this back, and I might as well do that with the ladder off. So let me do that real fast. Alright, well that took a little bit longer than I planned on it taking. But overall, I think it looks pretty good. I did end up going with the Dicor Ultra Self-Leveling. It is compatible with silicone sealant, but I did, of course, get all the old sealant off anyways. And it only took me half the day, because I did have to do the front cap seam too. But now with this done, I can finally get the ladder going. But I did start with this one first, so it's a little bit more set up. So hopefully I won't drag the ladder across it. Speaking of that, I'm gonna take the ladder. I'll set it on the top right here, at least get 2 screws started in it, then we'll start on the side. That being said, if you have 2 people, it'll be a lot easier. And of course you have to stick with the ladder because that's an awful lot of paint work and a lot of body work to cover up all these holes. Because the factory's keeping insistent on putting these on here, even though I don't really know why they do it, because the liability of providing somebody a ladder just doesn't strike me as a very smart liability to take on. I'm just going to basically tack the ladder in place with a couple of Phillips head exterior grade screws. They're self-tappers because there should be some support in the roof here. Now we are going to be forced to use the exact same areas because I don't want to do any body work or paint work on this one. So I'll have to tack the lower in place and then do each individual sets of standoffs individually. I am happy to know there is structure in there. And for everybody that's going to be upset that these are not painted black, it doesn't matter. There's one. There's 2. I just have to pull this one down a little bit to get that done, but then we'll almost be done. Look, I already have most of the other one started. And then for those that are actually wondering, yes, if we were to put this into the back wall of an actual RV, we would want to seal these up, these holes. But this is just the rear cap that goes into the engine compartment. The factory didn't seal it, we don't need to seal it. If the new owner wants to get a paint marker out here and paint the heads of their screw, they're welcome to. But I don't know if you can see the condition of the ladder. It's not pristine anyways, you have to paint the entire thing. Alright, now that we're back here up on the roof, we can pre-drill the rest of these holes. I'm just going to be putting some sealant on underneath right here. I don't think butyl's the right choice because butyl works on compression. And to compress it fully means we get rid of all the butyl seal. If you don't compress it all the way, that means this is a flex point and the sealant will come loose. And also the factory thinks the same way I do. Alright, start to seal it up, guys. There's probably a lot that could be said about the insanity of knowingly risking your life now, climbing up one of these ladders. Now that you know how flimsy they really are, but to risk your life on a couple of these star washers, a couple of screws, and a couple of plastic spacers, now you guys all know better. Look at this. It's so much better. That is, of course, why I always do climb up those ladders doing a roof inspection. But yeah, overall, really pleased with the way it turned out. It's a lot stronger now, too. Just be careful with it. I'll keep trying to encourage the industry to stop putting those rear ladders on, or at least put better ladders on as much as I can. Until that point, now you know how to fix them if you need to. Of course, if they're broken, you will have to replace them. Bye. Because ladders are so problematic, because ladders have been so problematic, because those rear and please don't get me started on but these star washers can be ordered, but these star washers can be purchased separately. I think they're like $10. You can order them, but these star wash, now this is not a sealing surface, so it's not as important to get as clean as possible. We don't need to wire brush this. Batteries always get you, don't they? Well, unsurprisingly, this turned into a very big job. And you know that butyl sealant that I hate so much, and I'm told cleans so easily. The razor blade is still the best tool for it. And I'm also lucky that it's the middle of winter, so it's not too flowy. I think probably the most tragic thing about all of this is this used RV doesn't have the ladder extension on it, so you still need a ladder to get to the ladder. Unless you want to spend another $200 for the ladder extension that, of course, also breaks and falls apart.